Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Command Sergeant Major Carlos Simmons.
Good morning, everybody. And, I'd like to start out with thanking AFCEA for for giving us this opportunity. I would also like to thank the few members in the audience for giving us your time. And most importantly, I would like to thank our panel members for taking time out of their busy schedules to be a part of this event. And so before I get started, I heard someone in the audience say that the last panel was the all-star panel. So me being a sergeant major, I want to make an on-the-spot correction. I now present you the all-star panel. And so when we talk about talent management, there's been a lot of talk as of late. So a few weeks ago, I was in D.C., heard the Chief of Staff of the Army, Sergeant Major of the Army, all talk about talent management. We talk talent management in news, we talk talent management on social media, we're talking talent management everywhere. But we really need to understand why we're talking talent management. So as technology is changing, the Army is changing. And the need for highly skilled individuals with exquisite skill sets is rising. So as General Hersey talked yesterday, he made note that 3.5 million vacancies in the IT world, and so we're in competition with industry to gain those same skills. They have the same requirements, and so we must do things differently. We must move from an industrial-based talent management system, very strict up and out, to more of a flexible pathways, where we not only consider what the Army's invested into soldiers and civilians, experience, skills, educations, but also what they bring from their personal lives. How do we take advantage of that as well? And at the same time, we're redefining. With our old up-and-out system, 20 years was a career. What is a career now? And so we have to get to an aggressive model or a different model, a flexible model, reactive model of talent management in order to meet the needs of the Army as well as the needs and goals of the individual. And so I'll introduce our panel members. To my right, Command Sergeant Major Richard Knott, career signaleer. He is the Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Signal School. To his right, Command Sergeant Major Julie Guerra, career intelligence professional. She is the Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Cyber School. To her right, Command Sergeant Major Christian Adkison, a cyber professional currently serving as the Command Sergeant Major of 782nd Military Intelligence Battalion. And to the far end, Sergeant Major Camie Rodgers, excuse me. She is currently the talent manager for the cyber and signal branches, working in the Sergeant Major Management Division up at aTRC, Fort Knox, Kentucky. And so I have one request, and I just request that you don't hold back on your questions. So we have some of the most senior sergeant majors in the Army sitting on this panel. And, this morning, Sergeant Major Christian said he wasn't scared. So please, I'll turn the floor over to Sergeant Major Knott for brief introductions and comments. And there you go.
Well, Sergeant Major, I really appreciate the introduction. But good morning, everyone. And it's completely an honor to be here today to share some of my thoughts on what talent management is, especially as it relates to our enlisted force. But whenever I speak of talent management, I'll be remiss if I don't talk about the overarching part of that, which is the development of people and soldiers, right? See, because without developing the people, you really don't have the talent to manage. So as we go on today, and hopefully some of the questions will arise on how do we get after developing the folks that we don't have the luxury of selecting. There's individuals that's given to us, and it's our responsibility as leaders to develop those people. So I look forward to the conversation, and that's all I have right now.
Good morning. Sergeant Major Julie Guerra. So when we talk about talent management, we have the unique perspective as a very small and new branch, only 5 years old, to really use innovative ways in how we manage the talent. We can we can challenge the system, we can change the system, because from our perspective, if there's something new that we want to try as it applies to managing talent, especially in the enlisted cyber and electronic warfare workforce, we have that capability to really disrupt the system and figure out what works best within the cyber branch. So Sergeant Major Simmons, as he said, I'm a career intel soldier. I've been at the cyber school for almost 24 months now and have had the opportunity to really learn what cyber operations and electronic warfare is, how that affects the operational force, and then how we apply that to make sure that the right soldiers are in the right position, doing the right jobs, and going to the right places.
Morning, everyone. First of all, it is an honor to be here. Thank you, Sergeant Major Simmons, for the invitation. So my perspective is coming from the operational force. I'm the Sergeant Major for one of 2 offensive cyber battalions in the Army. And really, cyber is a hard problem, but people are even a harder problem. And really the focus on the enlisted population is we do get what we get from the cyber school, and we have to learn how to develop them and understand not only how to develop them technically, develop them as leaders, as soldiers, and how to retain them. And talent management is a huge part of that. I think the Army's already seen you have to step away from those old systems, developing new processes. I'm really excited to see in the future because the old models don't work, especially in a branch where you are competing with industry. You are competing with people that can pay a whole lot more money than the Army can. But it's more important that to the soldiers, they want to serve, and we want to give them a place that they can serve, and it's a benefit to them, it's a benefit to their families.
Good morning, Sergeant Major Camie Rodgers. Again, thanks for having me. Thank you, Sergeant Major Simmons. It's much warmer here than it is at Fort Knox, so I'm enjoying my time here. So I've been a talent manager. Well, I've been talent manager at aTRC for almost a year now, and that it brings a different perspective to managing talent. But as the panel members already alluded to, that we manage talent as leaders at every level. So I hope that I can bring some perspective from the aTRC side of things to the panel today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So, first question, and this is for Sergeant Major Knott, Sergeant Major Guerra. How does the institution remain current and relevant with the needs of the operational force?
So with the operational force sitting next to me, I would say that it's really about partnerships. It's about unity of effort. It's ensuring that we get feedback from the operational force through CTSSBs, the critical task site selection boards, and through really just having a conversation with the operational force and ensuring that what we are teaching at the cyber school is actually what they need. And when they don't need it, or if they don't need it, they come to us, we course correct, and then we ensure that what we're doing at the cyber school is relevant so that it applies to what they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis, whether it's offensive or defensive cyber operations.
All right, and so to piggyback on that, it's absolutely right. It's about bringing back to the schoolhouse what's going on in the operational field. So it's about sending teams out to our different CTCs to evaluate training and see what difficulties the force is having, and trying to institute that into our schoolhouses as fast as we can. Like someone from the panel earlier alluded to, the trade-op thing is 3 years, right? So to get inside the schools and change programs of instruction, it's a little bit more difficult. But being able to bring that knowledge back from the different training environments is what we have to do. And hopefully we can change as fast as technology is changing, but it is a difficult task for us every day.
Sergeant Major Rodgers, how does aTRC stay connected with the needs from a talent management perspective of the operational and institutional forces?
So a lot of it is communication. I'm constantly linked up with both Sergeant Major Guerra, Sergeant Major Knott, as well as our Force Com folks, our senior leaders to learn and understand what is going on. Because I think one of the biggest keys to talent management is understanding what the requirement is. So I talk almost daily to Brigade, CSMs. So every level of leadership, I get a good understanding of what is going on in their forces, what are they looking for, and what do they foresee in the future for their requirements.
Thank you. So, Sergeant Major Adkison, can you talk to the what the operational units are doing to manage talent?
So, at the operational units, it's really, as soon as you get a soldier in, it's assessing their aptitudes. So we do have requirements and are mandated to fill certain positions, within the cyber forces. But we're given a little bit of flexibility there to fill those operational needs, but also identify, based on the soldier's aptitude, how they best fit in. And sometimes that means, it's an MI professional that may fit better in to be an operator. They just have those skills, that knowledge, and those behaviors that will make them a great operator, developer, whatever that is. It's also really sitting down and talking with the soldiers, and it's part of being a leader is understanding your soldiers' desires and trying to fit the mission needs in with where they want to progress. It's helping them progress, providing the training, and then getting back to the schoolhouse, having them teach the next generation.
So if I can add, right? So how we get after really the talent management piece is really exposing folks to things that they're not comfortable doing. It's giving them the opportunities to really get out there and learn, grow, experiment, test, do things like that, and then putting them in challenging situations. So at the Signal School, and you've heard this, for 2 days now. We're going from 17 MOSs down to 7 MOSs, and part of that is the whole talent management process, because we don't want folks to be stovepipe. We want folks to have a breadth of knowledge so that when the opportunity arises, we can just pluck an individual and put them in a situation because they have some experience on it, right? So it's about building that versatile individual, whether it's a civilian or a soldier or a green suiter, it doesn't matter, but just exposing them to so much more so that, their breadth of knowledge is more, so that you can pluck an individual and put them in a different situation and they will be successful.
Yeah, if I can add on to that, I would say too, I've been doing this Army thing for 25 years, and so up until this point, talent management was a misnomer. It wasn't something, leaders used the words together, but it wasn't really that. It was square peg, square hole. It's time for you to PCS. And so I think that the way that the Army at large is looking at this is, it's a people organization. And thinking about what's the best way to use people, because we recruit the soldier, but we retain the family. And so if we're consistently at a 2-year mark, regardless of where that soldier is and their family is in their career and their personal lives, are plucking them out of a position that is probably the best place to keep them, then we're not actually managing talent. It's absolutely about getting after what makes soldiers uncomfortable, what makes leaders uncomfortable, and then pushing them into that domain, whether it's cyber, signal, intel, it doesn't matter, and making them come up against problem sets that they have never dealt with before. And sometimes that means leaving them in place for 3 to 4, 5 years, which is a different mentality from how we have managed personnel and talent throughout the Army in the time that I've been doing this. So I think that us having this discussion at the senior levels is heartening, and it's refreshing that we're actually having these conversations.
All right. And with that, go straight to Sergeant Major Rodgers. So what is aTRC doing to put the soldier and the family in the right place and the right time, not just for the Army, but well, but for also for the individual?
So HRC, first of all, HRC, one of the top priorities, obviously, of the HRC CG is talent management. So not only are talent managers, professional development NCOs, and assignment managers reaching out and talking more to the soldiers, but there's programs in place. One program would be the NCO contact program. So every NCO, senior NCO, E6, promotable and above, before he or she gets put on assignment, HRC is mandated to reach out and talk to them, whether it's via email or phone call. HRC is also working on a new system. Currently, we're using the ASK tool, which is Assignment Satisfaction Key. It's pretty old. I think I used it as a private. So they're revamping that, looking to have that out next year. And that will provide a little bit more interaction between the soldier and the assignment manager to have a discussion to identify what their wants, needs, and desires are, as well as, you know, highlight some of their key talents, right, skills and experiences. They also will be able to see available requirements during their manning cycle. When their manning cycle opens up, they'll be able to go into there and see what is available for them, and they can make choices and they can request certain assignments.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience members?
So the first question is for Sergeant Major Knott. If you reduce the number of MLSs, soldiers will become generalists of their specialty. What will you do to keep the expertise you need in specific and technical domains?
All right, so we're that's a great question, first of all, but we're reducing the amount of MOSs, so military occupational specialties, but the individuals will still have their expert specialty, whether it's satellite communications, whether it's IT-based, whether it's transmission. So we will still have those experts. But what we're trying to do is just take away the big gaps that stovepiped our soldiers from not learning other things. So we just want them to be able to be exposed so that they will have a general knowledge going forward.
The next question is for Sergeant Major Rodgers. How will aim for enlisted assignments change the Army and the enlisted development path?
So, from my knowledge, it won't be AIM for enlisted. It will be the ASK enlisted management tool that I just spoke about. So it will bring a more collaborative effort between HRC and the soldiers to get to the right place. And it really just open up that dynamic.
So this is for Sergeant Major Adkison and Guerra. What is the number one motivator for our young cyber NCOs?
The mission. It is absolutely the mission, the importance of what we're doing that motivates them. More so as far as retention than money. The one thing I hear that's most important is that they're doing the job that they came in to do and they were given the skills for.
Yeah, I would, absolutely. It's the soldiers that I talk to, the NCOs that I talk to that are staying in, that have reclassed into this career field. They are all about the mission. That's all they care about. The money, I think it's a nice thing to have. I'm not sure what the feasibility and sustainability is of the amount of money that some of them are getting for bonuses and skill pay. I think the skill pay will probably stay the same. But for them, if they're motivated by money, they're not going to stay anyway. The industry will pick them up. So for us, every soldier that I talk to, though, they're staying in because they love what they do. They love their soldiers. They love the mission. They love what they do, and they're doing what they came in the Army to do, which is important.
This one is not directed at any panel member. There must be a significant generational gap between senior leaders and junior leaders in these technical fields. How are you handling the communication between these elements of the force?
So I just heard we're old.
Clearly. So I would say, we were talking about this before. Actually, the four of us were talking about this before we came in here. I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's a digital native. I'm a Gen Xer. And so what I grew up on is completely different. I mean, she can type like 1 million words a minute with not a single computer class, and I had to take it. We all took typing classes in high school to be somewhat proficient on a keyboard. So I think it's asking them. It's about humbling yourself as a leader and knowing that there's going to be a technical gap, and that's okay. We want there to be, advances in technology so much so that we, in our generation, are trying to play catch up. And so I think that honestly, from my perspective, even though there is a significant technical gap between what I learned and came up, in the 80s with versus what my kid even now is doing in school, it's really cool. And it's just opening your eyes and knowing you're going to be a little bit irrelevant in this space, and that's okay, and just ask questions. And if they look at you like you're old and weird, that's all right too. But it's being able to humble yourself as a leader, and I think in every capacity, especially in this one.
I don't know what to add to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Oh, I'll add something to it. So I will tell you, I came in the Army in 1988, so I'm the oldest Sergeant Major up here today. And, this is not a new problem when we talk about the gap in knowledge, leaders versus the led. And we are constantly evolving and changing. And so from a very practical standpoint, we've just got to let the reins go. We've got to let the young folks handle this thing. We've got to turn around and look over the horizon versus walking into the future backwards. And so, as I look at, my last few days in the Army, I am very comfortable with turning over the reins to the next person, to the younger generation. The Sergeant Major is going to replace me, has not been in the Army as long as I have, and that doesn't mean that she's not qualified. And it's the same thing at the company and the platoon level. We have to empower our subordinates. We have to let go.
What is the plan for soldiers that don't want to lead but want to stay on the keyboard?
Could you repeat the question?
What is the plan for soldiers that don't want to leave but want to stay on the keyboard?
Lead or leave?
Lead.
Okay. All right. I think this is going to be, it's something that we're grappling with right now on the officer and the enlisted side, because we need leaders. We need people to lead the formations, to lead the organizations, and so it's a really honest conversation that we are having with those personnel, the importance of being in those roles and what the differences that it will make to the operational force when you have the right leaders in those positions. You can't discount what leadership is. And so really it's opening up their eyes and opening up the aperture on the impact that you can have when you come off keyboard and come to the schoolhouse and teach what is actually happening operationally in the world. And the importance of that, the relevance of that, and what impact that has on the students. When we have people come over from the Cyber Protection Brigade and the 780th, Chris's battalion, those soldiers are like so excited. They just want to sit there and listen for hours on end. And so I think that them being able to see that and see the impact that they're having on soldiers and then being able to go into those leadership positions is key, and it's critical. And sometimes it goes back to what Sergeant Major Knott said. It's forcing them to do what they may be uncomfortable with. And maybe part of that wanting to stay on keyboard is less mission and money motivation, and it's more that's what they're used to and they're comfortable with. And so sometimes you've got to rip them out of their comfort zone and put them into something they're not necessarily comfortable with.
But But the conversation is definitely being had right now, because that is an issue right now. I wouldn't call it an issue, but it is a concern. You have the individuals that's what they want to do. They want to be on the keyboard. And, you know, when you look at it, why not let them be on the keyboard, right? But there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. There has to be a time where, you know, because the Army, the organization that we're built on individuals stepping up and taking the next person's place, right? And part of that is being a leader. The conversation is being had. I don't know where we will go with that, but it is definitely something to think about.
What are the major trends you are seeing across your junior enlisted force that create the most pressure to separate? In your opinion, is a seamless Guard Reserve transition option a valuable resource for talent management?
So, you know, when I look at why soldiers separate, the majority of it is actually just, it's family. You know, it's separation from family. It's they don't want to pick up and move. I think we're moving, you know, we're finding steps to kind of correct that, you know, longer assignments, you know, at the station of choice. I think the transition to the reserves and Guard, it's happening now. You know, we're in contact with the reserve recruiters and with the units within the National Guard, and we're actually sometimes getting those same soldiers back activated for a few years, back on the same mission. So they have the same skill sets, they're doing a lot of the same missions, and actually them going out and working with industry makes them better when they do come back as soldiers.
Right. So, and I wouldn't leave out the transition to the civilian workforce either, right? So we get them from the civilian workforce and we send them back to the civilian workforce. And then, yes, National Guard and Reserve, that is the perfect transition. That is actually the transition that we would like for our soldiers when they've decided that active duty is no longer for them.
Will job diversification, as measured by PCSing every 2 to 3 years, still be a primary consideration by promotion boards as we transition to allow soldier assignment preference play a larger role in the assignment process?
So there's conversations being had. We've discussed it at aTRC quite a bit about stabilizing folks. That most locations you can get a very diverse look at different jobs throughout, you know, a 5 to 6 year stay versus a 2 to 3 year stay. Now I can't speak exactly to what a board would look at as, you know, diversify or not, but I think it's more based on what they're doing, not where they're doing it at. So if they're still rising and taking those hard jobs at the location they're at, there's not a huge issue with their file as far as promotion goes.
Yeah, can I say a little bit more on that one? So we own that process. So we aTRC and the Army issue instructions to the promotion boards. So if the truth has changed, the requirement has changed, for whatever reason, those instructions to the board changes in terms of what we're looking at to promote and retain, what is important. So that is a solvable problem, is my point.
So I've sat, absolutely, sir. So I've sat several central selection boards, and I will say that up front, you will have someone from each CMF, each career management field, that will talk specifically about, for example, for the Signal, White House Communication Agency. Once those soldiers get cleared, they're not leaving. And so, but it's what does their paper look like? What is it exactly that they're doing there? And what matters collectively? And it's really the same across all of the branches. It's about, just like Sergeant Major Rodgers said, it's about what you're doing there versus how long you're there. I think that the Army has gotten away from this kind of, as we're talking about talent management, the mindset that 2 to 3 years is all you can do. If you are somewhere and you have the ability to be, for example, you're an operator, a team lead, a platoon sergeant, an instructor, and you've done all of these things within a 4 or 5 year plan, that tells the board that you've sought out opportunities to do something other than what you came to Fort Gordon, for example, to do. And so I think that from the beginning, we are able to really change that narrative as the senior enlisted that sit on those boards.
Could you describe the detection process to find talent both inside and outside the military?
So I can speak from HRC perspective. There are some programs that the enlisted branches have put in place where one of them is the Manner Performance Tool, which kind of it's an algorithm tool that skims their records and puts together their ratings, and it scores different awards and things like that, and it gives them a number, and it will rank them against their peers. And so the enlisted branch is able to see in a population of, let's say, staff sergeants who are the top few, and then they can identify those folks for certain maybe key assignments, maybe some nominative assignments, such as White House communications and things like that. And so that's just one example how HRC does it. Now, from a Sergeant Major perspective, I manage Sergeants Major. My population is much smaller, and I just do it the old-fashioned way I filter what I need, and then I look at packets. I look at people's files, make phone calls, and I talk to people and make it happen.
So we've been partnering a lot with high schools and colleges, really getting out there and showing what the Army has to offer. Doing things like Cyber Patriot actually is a great opportunity, to get out there, see the students, and see where those, who has the right skills, and figure out how to bring them into the military, whether that's as a civilian or as a soldier. Scholarship for Service, another great program. I think some of our best developers, 2 of the best ones we have came from Scholarship for Service, and that was, getting out there in the institutions and, finding that right talent.
Take one more question.
So back regarding the technical versus leadership, has the Army considered bringing back the multi-level specialist rank that used to exist for technical MOSs?
No. Short answer. No. There's no. We have the warrant officer cohort that is really our technical experts. We still expect non-commissioned officers to lead. We expect non-commissioned officers to do exactly what is part of their job, which is to train, develop, coach, teach, and mentor the next generation. If that hadn't happened for us, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So there's still, you can be a technical expert in your field as a non-commissioned officer, but that doesn't completely absolve you from your leadership duties just because you're in this space.
All right, so we're going to go into closing comments now, if you have any.
So talent management, it's an art, So as I alluded to from the beginning, it's really about the development of the people under your charge and providing them the opportunities to learn and grow, that give them the chance and the opportunity to go to places and to do things that they normally wouldn't do. So that's really all I have. It's just something that we struggle with and we grow with every day.
Yeah, so I would say, when it comes to talent management, I've had this conversation multiple times, talent management versus personnel management, and really what the difference is. And as leaders, we own that problem, we own that conversation. And it is, it goes back to, you're going to have operators, you're going to have soldiers, NCOs that are on keyboard, and that they're very good at that. But they also need to be able to lead and train the next generation to ensure that we continue to grow this branch. Because without that, we can't grow the branch. And it's making them come out of their comfort zone, which is key. You've got, in this career field, a lot of introverts, and that will help them come out of their shell and be good at being leaders, is making them uncomfortable sometimes. And so that's from, just from growing the branch perspective, growing the next generation, and continuing to ensure that we can train the next generation of cyber and electronic warfare workforce. It's making sure that we're managing this cohort to every single degree that we can to make sure that we can retain.
I think one of the key pieces is that us as leaders need to kind of mature and be flexible, understand, it's a different generation. And not every soldier is going to, do a 30 career and not going to be Sergeant Major Simmons. But that's okay. The ones that just want to come in, do 6 years of service, do their time, then get out. That's fine too. We can't all fit in the same mold. And having that conversation with every individual is important. Maybe, in the future, they don't want to just be on keyboard. They actually want to lead soldiers and helping guide them. That's a key part of talent management.
So I'll just almost piggyback off of what Sergeant Major Adkison said. We focus a lot on the top tier folks as the talented, but in reality, everybody has talent. So it's about maximizing everyone's talent. So as leaders, we need to make sure that we understand folks, what they bring to the table, but also their intentions, because we may manage someone a little bit differently, if they plan to get out, but also continue to re-engage because they may change their mind too. That happens often. But just understanding that talent management is the entire force. It's just not the top 10 or 20% of folks with talent. So everyone has their own unique talents.
All right. Give our panel a hand.